Hey friend, I hope you're doing well. Today I am sharing the second update for my Project 100 uses. This is a project that I am updating every other month. So the first update happened a couple months ago in March, and now it's time for our second update, so I'm going to hop on into it. I currently have 6 products in this project, so I'm going to go ahead and start with our first one, which is the Fenty Cream Bronzer. This is in the shade Butter Biscuit. I used this bronzer 14 times before the first update, and I have used it an additional 28 times for a total of 42 uses. So leading up to this update, I have doubled the number of uses that I got in the first couple of months, and we are very close to that halfway mark. I was able to reach that 25 usage goal within the past couple of months. If you missed my intro, then you might be unfamiliar with some of my rules for this project, but I personally have a rule that each product must get a minimum of 25 uses before I decide whether or not to declutter or to keep it in this project. So I reached 25 uses on this and decided to keep on going. If I do choose to roll something out after the 25 uses, it has to be because I chose to declutter it. I can't just decide to keep it but not continue on with the 100 uses. So this one I decided to keep in and continue working on. We are getting closer to halfway through. I don't think that we'll be able to reach goal on it by next update, which will be in July, but I'm hoping that I can reach goal by September. So in order to ensure that I can do that, I want to try to get another 30 uses on this bronzer by next update. I think that should be doable. I almost got to 30 uses this time, and that allows me a little bit of leeway to not have to use it every single time that I do my makeup, but I do use it very often. The next product is another cream, and that is the Tower 28 Cream Blush in the shade Power Hour. I used this blush 6 times before the first update, and I used it 2 additional times for a total of 8 uses. My goal on this blush was to reach 25 uses. Obviously, I didn't do that. This color is a bit intimidating for me and my more fair skin tone, so that's why I haven't been reaching for it super often. But now that we are entering into summer, I'm hoping that I can start to use it a bit more. First of all, I'm guessing that I will get a little bit of color, hopefully nothing crazy, but enough to make this look a little bit more at home on my face. And this color just fits in more with some of the bronzed looks that I'm hoping to be doing throughout summer. That being said, the fact that I have only 8 uses on this and we are a little over 4 months into the year, I think, that all still is kind of telling. So I know that I have another blush that is a very similar color to this. It is the LYS Cream Blush in the shade Confident. So if this is a color that I'm not going to use very often, I should probably try to decide which is more of a priority for me to keep. So with all of that in mind, I am going to try to hit 25 uses within the next 2 months on this. If I'm really going to be using it more in summer, then that should be doable. And when I get to that 25 use point, then I can decide whether or not I would like to keep or declutter this blush. An additional rule that I have for myself in all of my panning projects this year is that I'm going to be incorporating a mid-year refresh. So I imagine that mid-year refresh could be especially important in this project if there are certain things that just are not working for me. And this is one of those products that I could see being impacted by that rule, that mid-year refresh. The mid-year refresh is, first of all, the only time in this project that I can roll something out without decluttering. So in July, I could decide that I do want to keep this blush, but that it's just not going to work for me for the Project 100 uses. So if that is the case, then I can roll this out and roll something else in instead. I do want to keep in mind, though, that if there really is a product like that I really want to keep, but that I can't hit 100 uses on, I think that is also something pretty telling about the likelihood of whether or not I would actually be able to finish up that product in the future. If I can't reach 100 uses on a cream blush, then I'm probably not going to be able to finish it before it expires. So that should be another thing that I keep in mind when deciding whether or not to declutter as well. But with all of that being said, I would still like to hit 25 uses, but if not, I anticipate that mid-year refresh might come into play. So regardless, I think that July could be an important update for this product in particular, but we'll see how things play out over the next couple of months. The next product is my BH Cosmetics Bellini Blush Palette. I used this palette 12 times before update number 1, and I've used it an additional 13 times for a total of 25 uses. And that was my goal, to hit 25 uses by this update, as well as to use each individual blush an additional 2 times. I was able to do that as well. Before last update, I had used Georgia Peach 10 times, and I used it an additional 8 times for a total of 18 uses. I had used Just Peachy 6 times and used it an additional 6 times for a total of 12 uses. I had used Peachy Keen twice and used it an additional 2 times for a total of 4. Peach of Cake I had used twice and used it an additional 3 times for a total of 5 uses. Life's a Peach I'd used once and an additional 3 times for a total of 4 uses. And Peach Please I had used once. I used it an additional 2 times for a total of 3 uses in this project. I do want to point out that even though I've only used Georgia Peach 18 times, I am able to see some of the ridges in the pan. I haven't hit pan or anything like that, but that tells me that it wouldn't be difficult for me to hit pan on this by any means. So I do think these are some pretty shallow pans, and that's not a bad thing, especially when there's 6 blushes in a palette. However, I am going to choose to declutter this palette. These colors are just... they're a lot. I probably wouldn't get any additional use on these 3 over here, except for the minimum of 5 uses that I have to get on each product within a palette. So all of my progress would have been on these 3 here, and I'm just not super drawn to them enough to try to finish those 3 up, or even to continue to use this palette 100 times. So I would rather pass this on to somebody who would be interested in all of these colors, or at least would be interested in using up a few of them. So that is my plan, to pass it along to somebody else who would get a bit more use on it. I also learned from this palette pretty much what I should have already known, which is that for the peach type of colors, I tend to go for some more muted colors like this, or a more lightly pigmented peach color like this. These more vibrant and much more pigmented colors just did not work well on my skin tone. They also pull very orange on my neutral to olive leaning skin. Orange blushes look really good on some people, but they don't look the best on my skin tone. So that was an important lesson for me to learn. This color I actually did enjoy. It again was just too pigmented, and unfortunately there's only so much that I can do about that with my very light toned skin. What I ended up doing within this palette was to dip into both these colors and to Georgia Peach at the same time. So I would dip a couple times into Georgia Peach and then dip my brush in like once to these other colors to try to lighten them up a bit. Or another way that I could do that once this blush was gone would be to incorporate another blush with them, another light toned blush, or to use a type of setting powder or something to help to lighten them up. But I just am not drawn to them enough to try to go that extra mile to try to make it work the best that it could for me. So I'm totally fine with just letting it go and passing it on to someone who would like it better. In place of the BH palette, I'm going to be rolling in another powder blush. This is the Patrick Ta Monochromatic Moment blush in the shade She's Seductive. This is not the duo, this is just a single powder blush. I'd used this blush a few times already to know that it's a pretty natural looking blush on myself. It can be built up, but it also can be worn very sheerly, which is something that is good for my fair skin tone. That way I can use it throughout multiple months of the year. And I've already used it 2 times within this project. So I've dipped my toe in. We're working our way toward that first 25 uses, but I anticipate that this will be a blush that I keep beyond the 25 uses and is one that I could use throughout any time of the year. Very excited to begin working on this. This is one of my favorites right now in my collection, so it feels like a treat to be able to include it in a project. Next up is the Patrick Ta Divine Rose 1 palette. This is like the Mothership 6 or 7 or something like that. I had used this palette 21 times before update number 1, and I used it an additional 30 times for a total of 51 uses. So I obviously surpassed the 25 use mark, and I've also actually hit that halfway point. So that's very exciting. The other rule that I have for palettes is that I have to use each individual shade at least 5 times. So my goal for this month was to hit that minimum on each shade, and unfortunately I didn't quite get there. I hit 5 uses on each shade but 1. The first shade, Skin Show Nude, I had used 14 times prior to update number 1, and I used it an additional 9 times for a total of 23 uses. I had used Velouria once, and I used it an additional 2 times for a total of 3 uses. That is the one in this palette that I haven't quite hit that 5 use goal yet. Next is Sable Bronze, and I had used that 5 times. I used it an additional 2 times for a total of 7 uses so far in this project. Refined Gold 002 I had used 3 times, and I used it an additional 11 times for a total of 14 uses. Iridescent Pink I had used once, and I used it an additional 4 times for a total of 5 uses. Extreme Mahogany I had used 5 times, and I used it an additional 2 times for a total of 7. Lovelace and Rose Dusk I had both used 3 times and used them each 2 more times for a total of 5 each. Then VR Rose Venus I had used once, and I used it an additional 7 times for a total of 8 uses in this project. And finally, Astral Solstice I had used 5 times and used it an additional 6 times for a total of 11 uses. I hope that you can tell from some of the up close footage that some of these shades are getting a dip in them. Some of the dips are a bit bigger than others, but all of them you can really tell that they've had some usage on, which is exciting to see. The shades with the most notable dips are these 2 here, Skin Show Nude and Extreme Mahogany. But really all of these shades also you can see some usage on. I wasn't sure if this would change much at all as far as how it looks throughout this project, so that is exciting to see. I'm obviously very far from panning this palette or anything like that, but I am hopeful that I could hit pan on maybe 1 shade by the end of this project. It probably won't happen over here, I'm guessing, but Skin Show Nude especially, I could see myself hitting pan in that by the end of this project. But my goal for next time is to get another 30 uses on it. I think that would be great. I try to incorporate this in my looks as much as possible. Not quite every look, but a lot of them. If I could continue to do that, that would be great. Again, I'm anticipating that this one will definitely be rolled out in September. I don't think I can get an additional 50 uses within the next 2 months. I would have to use it pretty much every single day, but I can certainly get another 50 uses on this within the next 4 months. So that is the plan, to roll this out in September, hopefully, fingers crossed, if all goes well. I'm still thoroughly enjoying using this palette, and I found new ways to pair it with Soft Glam especially. My favorites over the past couple of months have been these 3 right here, Sable Bronze, Refined Gold 002, and then VR Rose Venus. Those have all been really fun, and they pair really, really well with the Soft Glam color story. So it's been a blast to use this palette. I'm looking forward to continuing to use it over the next 4 months or so. And I'm already beginning to plan what will be the next palette that I roll in. I haven't quite settled on one, but Perhaps even next month I'll offer a couple of options, and perhaps you could give me some insight on what you think would be best. Let me know if that would interest you at all, and I can work on getting like 3 options to offer on that July update. But yeah, this has definitely been my biggest success story so far in this project. Next is the Ofra highlighter and Milk and Cookies. I was able to use this highlighter 13 times before update number 1, and I have used it an additional 19 times for a total of 32 uses. This one I'm not seeing a whole lot of visible progress in yet, but I have still really been enjoying using it on a regular basis. Because it's a duo, I anticipate that I will be able to use it throughout the entire summer. Right now, I am still mixing the 2 sides, but if I get a bit more bronzed, then I can move over to using just the darker side, and that should work really well. I was able to hit my 25 use minimum on this product. This is the 3rd product I have hit that initial goal on. My goal is a little bit ambitious for the next couple of months, but I would like to see if I can use this an additional 30 times before the next update. Like I said, that'll be pushing me a bit, but that will get me closer to being able to hit goal on this within the year. And last but not least, we have the Colourpop Lippy Pencil in the shade Brink. I used this pencil 4 times before the first update, and I've used it an additional 9 times for a total of 13 uses in this project. My goal was to use it 15 times between the last update and now, so I was 6 uses off, didn't quite get there. But that being said, the warmer that the weather has gotten, the more that I have been pulling this out and wearing it. So again, I'm going to set a more ambitious goal for me next time. I want to try to use this 20 times before the next update. I am for sure planning on hitting that 25 use minimum. At this point, I'm not planning to declutter, but the one thing that could lead to that is the fact that this pencil is actually kind of broken. I don't want to force it to happen, but the lead part of this pencil actually tends to kind of fall out. It doesn't fully fall out of the pencil, but it can come out to like a good amount. It hasn't fallen all the way out yet, but if that would happen, I would kind of be forced to declutter this. Now that we're getting into summer, this has been a good color to wear, but I have definitely learned that this is not a color that I gravitate to throughout the entire year. So that probably makes this not the best choice to have included in a project like this. However, I do want to be sure to continue to be using this, as I've had it for a few years now and I don't want to let it go bad. I don't know if it falling out of the packaging is kind of a way for it to let me know that it's already there, but for now I'm just going to keep on trucking. This could be another one that I roll out because of the mid-year refresh. I would probably still continue using it, but if it's not looking like I'm going to reach 100 uses by the end of the year, then it might not be the best product to keep in this project. But if you have any thoughts on that, let me know. I would love to hear it. But that's everything. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you are doing a project 100 uses or some other project pan, please let me know how it's going for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.